There's no peace deal that Ukraine, there is no peace deal unless Ukraine agrees to it. But there's also no peace deal unless Russia agrees to it. We are just trying to find whether there's common ground that we can make happen. And maybe that's not possible. Maybe it is. Maybe that's not possible right now.
That's Secretary of State Marco Rubio on the Trump administration's efforts to secure a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine. U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and the president's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, meeting with the head of Russia's sovereign wealth fund in Miami to continue discussions over ending the war in Eastern Europe. Joining me now is Fox News senior strategic analyst, retired four-star General Jack Keane. General, great to see you this morning. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, delighted to be here, Maria.
I want to get your analysis on this latest peace deal from President Trump. There is complaining because Putin will not give up any territory. He does not want to agree to some of these terms in the peace deal, and Zelensky doesn't want Putin to have any of that territory. So how is this war going to end if Zelensky does not want Putin to take any more territory and Putin is not budging?
Well, these peace talks, you got to give the president and his team a lot of credit here, for their patience, number one, and persistence in trying to pursue a permanent peace deal here. This has been going on for a number of weeks.
Yeah.
And, all sides talk about it being constructive. That's diplomatic speak for the fact that, yes, but there's issues that need to be resolved. And that's kind of where we are. There's three parts that are taking place here. One is the 20-point plan, and the issue in the 20-point plan is, as you mentioned, it's land and territory. Russia wants some territory they have not been able to take in 11 years and not been able to take in the last 2 years, although they have tried quite earnestly to do so. Ukraine doesn't want to give up that territory, and if there is an agreement where Ukraine gives up some territory or Russia gives up some territory, then you come to the second part, which is security guarantees. Comprehensive security guarantees have been developed. The United States has had a part of that. The Ukrainians have had a part in it, and the Europeans. And what am I talking about here? Is the United States command and control of a multinational force that has an air, land, and sea component to it, with security forces obviously on the ground inside Ukraine, air power overhead, and also ships in the Black Sea that are making certain that there's no incursions there. This is to enforce a peace deal, and Ukrainians need that to deter Russia from reattacking. And then the third thing is a reconstruction and recovery of Ukraine itself. So it's essentially an economic peace. All of those have issues associated with them, Maria, and it remains to be seen. Two presidents have spoken this weekend. Putin, in his press conference annual, pretty much the same as he's always said. He really does want Ukraine. He wants them to demilitarize. He doesn't want any foreign troops. And clearly, his objective has not changed, and that is to topple the government in Ukraine and put in a stooge government like he used to have many, many years ago. Zelensky, however, made a statement saying he's willing to go to an elections if there is a ceasefire. He wants the people who have been displaced to be able to vote in that election inside Ukraine. There's almost 4 million of them. And he wants to put together an infrastructure for the 4 to 6 million of Ukrainians who are outside the country so they can vote. And also he wants his military to be able to vote. Obviously, you have to have a ceasefire to do all of that. That's quite a contrast from where Putin is. What does that say to us? Zelensky does want peace. The United States does want peace. I think it remains to be seen where Putin is on this, frankly.
Well, it's a great point that you mentioned in terms of these elections that should happen. But Ukraine said it's ready for elections. Zelensky said after President Trump repeated claims that Kyiv was using war to avoid holding elections. How are you going to have an election, though, if you don't know if it's going to be safe? I mean, Zelensky said, we're ready for elections if partners guarantee security. Can that happen?
Well, if we got a ceasefire and we have security guarantees in place, then yes, it can happen. Obviously, you can't do it during conflict itself. I mean,
right.
The soldiers have a right to vote, and the people are displaced, and people in the contested areas are certainly not going out and risk their lives to vote. That's just the reality of it. So that has never been realistic, that we'll have the elections, while the war is going on. and there's martial law declared. But this is a major step forward that Zelensky has taken, and I think it demonstrates that he and his people truly want peace, but they don't want it on Russian terms. They want it on terms that are fair to both sides.
Yeah, and you make a great point in terms of the potential for a stooge election, a stooge government that is handpicked by Russia to run Ukraine. And that sort of sounds like what China tries to do in Taiwan and elsewhere, but they were not successful last time around in Taiwan. General, it's great to see you. Thank you so much for your analysis this morning, sir.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, Maria.
Merry